You were tuned in to episode 108, the Goodfellas podcast. It's your boy G5 Jeff TV, aka G5, aka 5, aka the Guru. And I got my main man with me, VP Shane. What's going on, good brother?
Surviving.
So, for the people that don't know, Shane is in the UK. How hot is it out there, Shane?
Today was 42 degrees, which is like, in that's Celsius, so that's 107 degrees Fahrenheit.
Whoo.
Like, bro, UK is not built for heat like this, trust me. Like, the country is made for rainy weather to keep people warm. The country is generally a cold country. I think our average temperature around the year is 4 degrees. So that's our average temperature around the year. So 42 degrees or 107 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, we're not built for that. We leave that to like Vegas and stuff like
Arizona. Yeah.
that. Nevada and those hot
Mhm.
cities.
Yeah. It's crazy because it's about 94 here in Philly. Now, I need for it to be hot. I need to shed the weight, but not like this. Not like this. Not like this. It's like crunk gym type heat. You know what I
Literally, bro.
mean?
Bro, it's literally like that. Like, yeah, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy, man. But big shout out to everybody that's in here, man. We're gonna give people a couple minutes to get up in here, man. But in fact, before we even get started, man, season 3 of the boxing prediction fantasy league will be up and going. We will be starting August 6th with the Jake Paul and Hasim Rahman fight. Hasim Rahman Jr. fight, and we got a bunch of goodies coming up. And of course, we're gonna announce this again at the end of the podcast. But I'm extremely excited about that. We're gonna the revamp the website, and we got a lot of
Yeah, I
really
mean,
really good
it's,
things going on, man. I'm excited about
it's
it.
already looking real good, man. It's already looking good. The site updates and stuff is already looking positive, much better than what it was before. And we added some things to it, which is again, I just really like, some concepts that are, revolutionary again. We always try to do things that's brand new that no one else is doing.
That's a fact, and big shout out to everybody that's been like patient with us as well, man. Like, cause it's a lot of times it's already hard enough, like running something and it's 3 people in 3 different places. I think people don't realize how difficult that is to pull off on a daily basis. But then when you got just life stuff going on
Yeah,
too,
the
like
personal stuff.
the fact that y'all just stick around whenever we jump on, and it's like we haven't been consistent and it's not our fault, but the fact that y'all just jump right back on like nothing happened, man, like couldn't tell you how much we appreciate that, man, for sure. And we're gonna try to, take it day by day and just try to improve every day. But man, let's get started, man. Ryan Garcia, Javier Fortuna, 6 round stoppage for Ryan Garcia. Just man, change. Just give me your thoughts on the fight.
I mean, obviously, I thought it was a good performance from Ryan. Did I think it was going to be a competitive fight before the fight? Not really, but Fortuna is always someone who can give you good work. Get as a good test. I guess it's like one of those tests where if you're not on a good night, you can still win, but you might have a harder night's work than you're supposed to. But he's just gonna test you out on certain stuff and make sure certain parts of your game is rounded, and you can always experiment certain game plans and tactics, I guess. But if I was to just analyze Ryan Garcia's performance without going into too much detail yet, I would say that he had a good performance. I thought he fought solid. Again, I've been a massive critic of Ryan Garcia in the past,
Mhm. Yeah.
criticized him on a lot of things. and I praised him on certain things also. But I thought that was definitely his best performance to date.
Yeah, and the reason I went to Shane first on this one, but is because he is a big critic of Ryan Garcia. So that just goes to show that we are pretty consistent in terms of how we evaluate a fighter
And
inside
yeah,
of the ring.
it's not personal. I don't. I
Not
see
at
a lot of
all.
people criticizing Ryan, and that's mainly because Ryan may be in rivalry with a fighter that you like. You know, maybe it's maybe Tank Davis or Devin Haney or whatever. So
Right,
obviously, you may be thinking, okay, if I can't respect a performance if this dude is calling out one of my favorite fighters. But at the end of
right.
the day, a good performance is a good performance, you know. And
That's a fact.
I'm not gonna allow my personal preferences to cloud my perception. I have
Fact.
two eyes. I can see that this guy had a good performance.
Facts. Facts. Big shout out to Mark Nash, man. Mark Nash in the building. Um, he said, "What up, people?" Big shout out to you,
So,
bro. Hey, bro. Like, I don't know if you want to jump on the show at any point, man. I see you be up in here, man. If you want to jump on the show, put a one in the comment section, bro. Michael Johnson, what's going on, my bro? Said, "What it do? What's up with you, bro? What's going on with you, man? Appreciate you, man. As always, man. You always showing love, man. You know what I'm saying for sure. But yeah, I'm on like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and it's a lot of people that I mean, even people that we know, Shane, and the main thing is they talk about Ryan Garcia's feet. They say his feet is bad, his feet is horrible, and they can't really get past that. Now we're gonna show some video and really break things down and get into detail. So this is almost going to be kind of like a lab coat session. You know what I mean? But just explain, Shane. Explain to the people what a fighter can do to kind of negate the being flat footed inside the ring. Break that down for the people.
so like what people have to understand is culture is a big part and genetics is a big part of boxing. So you generally find a lot of Mexican fighters, not like Cuban and like other Latino areas, like let's say Cuba or Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico. Those dudes tend to have good footwork. But if you look at a lot of Mexicans, you know, even Canelo Alvarez, um, Oscar De La Hoya, and like the modern crop of Mexican fighters, you know, the Oscar Valdez, the Ryan Garcias, etc., etc. They all tend to have slow feet also. You know, they tend to have slow feet, and that's purely and simply down to their fighting style and how they train. So you look at a lot of Mexicans, this Mexican style that people speak about, which is phone booth fighting. When you fight in a phone booth, there's no need for footwork because your opponent is right in front of you. So
Hmm.
it's a thing where you're not going to see the coordination. So having fast feet and having foot coordination is two completely different things. So I'll
Hmm.
give you an example. Sean Porter probably had the fastest feet in history, you know, in terms of the welterweight division. I feel like nobody cut off the distance coming forward as fast as Sean Porter that I've ever seen in my life. Maybe you could mention someone at welterweight before me, but in welterweight that I've seen cutting distance, Sean Porter had amazing foot speed. He didn't have amazing foot coordination. So if you
Facts.
look at someone like Sean Porter, you see he smothers a lot of his work. He rushes in and his hands aren't matched at the same speed of his feet. It's almost like his feet is going too fast. And if you look at it, a lot of his work ended up being smothered. He ended up being too close, too far in, and not getting maximum leverage on his punches.
Right.
When you look at someone like Ryan Garcia, his one's not a coordination problem. His feet is just generally flat. His feet is just always firmly planted on the floor. And
Hmm.
that's purely and simply because he likes to generate power through his body. So someone like, let's say, Sugar Ray Leonard, they got that bounce on their feet. Uh Roy Jones Jr. bounce on their feet. They're always bouncing on their toes. Whereas Ryan Garcia, his foot is firmly planted and he transitions the weight from the solid foundation to the end of his punches.
Yeah.
How you would negate that, for example, is very difficult because biomechanically you would have to make massive adjustments, and I never encourage people to make massive adjustments. It's always subtle changes. What I would say is, instead of trying to be fleet of foot, worry more about foot placement. That's more important to me. So
Right.
you can have flat feet. Jeff will allude to this later in the conversation. But someone like Errol Spence, a lot of the time he's flat footed. He
Hmm.
doesn't have he doesn't have great bounce on his toes where he's bouncing in and out of range like how you will see a Tevin Farmer uh or what's it called, a Sugar Ray Leonard or someone who's a Pernell Whitaker who's bouncing on their toes. You won't see Errol Spence do that. But because he has a great understanding of distance and he sorry, he's got a great understanding of distance, so he doesn't need to, and he's got great foot placement, so he puts his feet in the right places to so foot speed doesn't matter. If I can make one step and I'm in the target, I don't need to make three fast steps. So that's what I would say is the most important thing.
Okay. Let me run through these comments real quick. Michael Johnson, he said, "Nah, I think it was perfect timing, perfect matchmaking." We're gonna get to that too. We definitely gonna get to that too. Mark Nash said, "I'm cool, just enjoying the content. I'm eating with my wife, but got y'all on the earbuzz. Humbled though. Thanks for the invite. Definitely will pull up one day soon. Yeah, that's an open invitation, bro. That's an open invitation, for sure. Said smash that like button. We definitely agree with that. He said, I think Ryan sits on his shots a lot too. Agreed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you guys notice Ryan dropping his left to throw the right? Yeah, that's something that he does. Go ahead, bro.
No, I don't think that's a massive problem because he throws the right pretty straight. So what you rarely find dudes counter straight right hands with left hooks. You
Yeah,
rarely find that.
yeah,
You see a dude do a pull counter, so they might pull the shot back and then counter with a right hand. You might see that, but you're rarely gonna see someone counter counter someone's right hook or straight right hand with their right hand. You're rarely gonna
yeah,
see that,
yeah.
and
You rarely see a right hand for a right hand.
yeah, you're rarely
Not
gonna
in a
see that.
bang. Yeah, not in a bang bang shot.
Not in a bang bang. Like the only way you will see that is if they're both swinging in right hooks at the same time. But as I said, Ryan Garcia throws a lot of his. He throws the left hook like a slap, and he throws the right hand straight, like straight down the pipe, bang. And the reason why he can afford to do that is because he's got so much distance. Like he's got so much height and reach on most of his opponents. They ain't even
Mhm.
gonna be able to counter him on that. Like
Yeah,
literally, his biggest problem has always been in transition. Like
right,
when he's transitioning from offense to defense and defense to
right,
offense. Because
right.
what he used to do is he used to leave with his hands down and he used to come in with his hands down. What I
Yeah,
saw which was better was he doesn't have a out and out high guard like you will see who's got an out like a Derek Chisora, for example, or Joe Frazier,
right,
where they got this out and out high guard where their hands are just pinned to their head and they're just walking straight forward. Or what's my dude's name? Isaac Cruz Gonzalez. He don't have that type of defense. He's got
right.
like a mummy type defense where I don't know if you guys remember like old school Klitschko, Vitali Klitschko, where you have both hands in front of you and you're
Hmm.
almost like mummying your way forward. And you can afford to do that if you got long enough arms. I don't really worry about as long as his arms are up and it's not by his hips. I'm not too worried about him dropping that left hand to throw the right hand.
Yeah. But Mark Nash, that's a good pickup though. He said he kept the right up when throwing the jabs though. Also
Yeah,
said
which is a good thing, which is
which
the
is a
right
good
thing to
thing.
do.
Right, correct. Ryan didn't have lead foot dominance with the southpaw stance. Agreed. So Mark Nash, you was kind of stealing my thunder a little bit, but I'm just gonna follow up on what you said basically. So let me get the Michael Johnson's comment first. He basically said that this was perfect timing, perfect opponent, perfect matchmaking. All of that may be true, You still got to go out there and perform though. Javier Fortuna, like nobody's gotten off on Javier Fortuna like that. Like nobody's gotten off on Javier Fortuna like that. Shane, I don't know if you remember. Remember the guy from he's from New York. I think he's from Brooklyn. And he used to argue with me all the time about how Devin Haney was ducking Javier Fortuna. And I was
Yeah.
like, why? I was like, why? I was like, he's just awkward. I was like, he's not skilled. I'm like, he's just awkward. Like, you know what I mean? But Ryan Garcia still had to figure the puzzle out. So Mark Nash, just to lead off with your comment about the lead foot dominance, the main thing with a southpaw and you're an orthodox fighter, you want to show multiple ways of getting in the front door. What I mean by that, the first punch you're throwing in your combination, you want to switch up what that first punch is. I seen Ryan Garcia throw maybe about 4 or 5 different shots as the first punch to his combinations. Of course, you had the traditional left hand jab. Um, he gave you a lead left hook. It was
That that
slapping. It was
that that
slapping.
that's I'm glad Jeff brought up. This is how me and Jeff think the exact same. You see that slapping left hook when you're fighting a southpaw. They always say it's never good to throw a jab against a southpaw, but you see that slapping left hook is probably the best thing to throw as an orthodox against a southpaw because that lead foot, your front left foot against their front right foot, you're always battling for foot placement. Who can get their foot on the outside? You see, if you
Right.
can land that slapping left hook, you center that opponent so much. You
Correct.
center that
Right.
opponent so much
Right.
because they can no longer afford to get that left foot, their right foot outside of your left foot because they're
Right.
gonna walk into a slap every time.
So just to add on to that, that slapping left hook, that was the second shot that he was sending. The third shot he was sending, it wasn't a lot, but it gave Fortuna something to look at. He gave you that lead. He gave you a lead left jab to the body, which you rarely see against the southpaw because the southpaw is turned like this. So if you throw in a jab, you got very little to hit. You got very little to hit. You only
Mm-hmm.
have here down to about the hip. That's all you have, but he still was throwing it. That was number 3. Then he gave you that straight right hand to the body, that Mayweather shot. That straight right
Mm-hmm.
hand to the body, and then he gave you that quick straight right hand up top. And he didn't even lean in with it. It was just an extended right hand because he's so lengthy at the weight. So
Mm-hmm.
he gave you 5 different joints in terms of how he started off his combinations. And you rarely see that with an orthodox fighter fighting a southpaw, like that many punch. So those 5 shots, those are 5 different punch combinations. So he can follow up the slapping left hook, lead left hook with a straight right hand or something to the body. He's giving
Mm-hmm.
them, it's up and down. The levels is up and down. So Javier Fortuna he couldn't even attempt to get off offensively because he didn't know how he had to play defense.
Yep.
So that's a definite improvement. I feel like Ryan Garcia's judgment of distance was pretty good. He didn't smother the shots. That's the one thing I got to give him credit for that as well. And I think
Yep.
that's a Goosen thing.
Good extension on the shots.
Yeah, good extension on the shots. So you can see the technical. I watched this fight from a technical standpoint. I didn't watch it because it's Ryan Garcia and he got a certain amount of followers and all that. I'm like, I know Ryan Garcia before Goosen, and I'm watching him now after Goosen, and I'm
Flaws
like,
and
I'm
pros
I'm
and
looking to
cons.
see right. So I'm looking for the pros and cons. I'm looking for the flaws. Did he correct things? Has he improved on things? I think the main thing that he's improved on is that when he's leaving out of the pocket, he's leaving out the back door. Now, how he got caught by Luke Campbell, he did that bounce, that hop step. He uses the hop step to get out of range. When he fought Luke Campbell, he did that hop step. But where
Hands
was his
by his
hand,
hip.
Shane? Exactly.
By his
Hands by his hips. You can tell it's not fluid yet. You can tell it's not fluid. But when he's doing that hop step now, he has at least one hand up
No,
and he's trying to block something else with the shoulder. So he's
what
defensively aware.
why I respect, I was about to say it, why I respect it is because he's making a conscious effort to correct it. Whether you
Mm-hmm.
get it every time, maybe not, but
Right.
he's still making a conscious effort, which means in the gym, he's making that conscious effort.
Yeah, it's gonna take him time.
Eventually, it's going to click. You need fights like these where you can reprogram yourself because this is something that don't happen overnight. Leaving the back door with your hands down is something that a lot of people who are rangy they do because they believe that because they got such good range and good distance, they don't need to worry about anything coming back at them because they don't need to because they're not going to be able to reach.
Yeah. Michael Johnson, he said, yeah, you're right, good placement, but what about the rest that Garcia ain't got? His speed been saving him. Soon someone is going to match him tit for tat and bye bye good night. So that's the thing, Michael. So that's the challenge. That's the challenge,
The,
and that's the
the,
race. That's the
the,
race.
no, that's a fact. But this is the thing, though. I can break down any fighter and see where there's methods in which, let's say a Tank Davis or David Haney can exploit Ryan Garcia. The thing is that it's all good me noticing his flaws. Is Goosen noticing his flaws? Is Ryan noticing his flaws? And the
Mm-hmm.
good thing that I'm seeing in Ryan Garcia, and it's crazy because I've been a massive critic of Ryan Garcia the last few years, but he's noticing his flaws. So yes, if there's so many things that that people can exploit. But as
Right.
he's fighting, I'm seeing less and less opportunities for those exploitations. Like I always said, Tank Davis catching this dude on the way in or catching this dude on the way out, he's gonna knock him out clean. But if
Right.
this dude can correct the hand placements on the way in and on the way out, it minimizes that opportunity of getting caught. All he needs to do is really learn how to keep his chin down. That's the biggest problem I see
That's
right
his
now.
biggest Michael, that is his biggest problem, bro. Like more than anything else that you mentioned. His chin is in the air. I have not seen him tuck his chin not one time in his career. And he doesn't tuck his chin. Number one, it seemed like he wasn't taught that because his chin wasn't even tucked in the amateurs. You go
No.
watch some of his amateurs fights, all his chin is straight up in. It's one thing you cannot give up your height and still keep your chin tucked. We talking a
And he's
matter
got
of inches. You understand what I'm
and he's
saying?
got and he's got a long neck as well, which is never a
Yeah.
good combination. It's never a good
No.
combination.
So I'm sitting up straight, right? Now, what Ryan Garcia needs to do is really just tuck his chin down just a little bit. You see the distance? It's not that much. See? And that's the difference between you taking a shot full steam or taking a shot at maybe 75%.
Literally,
You understand what
literally,
I'm
like
saying? So
it's 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 one of those ones where like Gooser needs to get him on the textbook, which means if you guys know what I mean by textbook, it just basically means get that textbook rested right underneath his chin hair and get
right.
him sparring with that textbook here, or get him on
Yeah.
the pads with that textbook here. The moment that
Right.
textbook drops, you know he's lifting his head up.
Yeah. And you can and listen, and it doesn't affect your vision. So I'm like this, my chin is up. If my chin is down, I still can see. Like you can still see, turn, turn, turn.
Exactly.
See, my chin is like this, turn, turn, turn. Like everything's still the same, but if you keep your chin tucked, that's his biggest problem. You know what I mean? That's his biggest problem. You know what I mean? Um, Mark Nash said that Javier ever fight at 140 before this. What I can say is that Javier Fortuna did request this fight at 140 pounds. And he came into the fight at 158. I can confirm that. So off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure, Mark, but I mean, hell, he requested it, and he came in about 7 to 8 pounds heavier than Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia came in the fight night at 148, and I think Javier Fortuna came in at 58. So all of that happened Saturday with Ryan Garcia being 10 pounds lighter than Javier Fortuna. So just sometimes weight plays a factor, but when there's a difference in skill, that weight don't mean nothing. Michael, he said, perfect timing, perfect matchmaking. I said it before the fight. Now, if Ryan would have done this to a fighter that comes forward with wins behind his back for momentum, I would be quiet. That's
I,
fair. That's fair in a sense. Go ahead, Shane. Go ahead.
sorry to cut you off, Jeff. I feel like people are being very critical of Ryan Garcia purely and simply because of what he said in the past. People can still take learning fights as they go through. You see my point? Like, I get what you mean and I understand what you're saying, but are you seeing improvement? That's all I want to, that's all, that's how I'm looking at it. Am I seeing improvement? Because at the end of the day, we all fight. Every fighter will fight a bum. Every fighter will fight a journeyman. But at the end of the day, how good do you look fighting that journeyman? How good do you look fighting that bum? Like Boots, for example, his resume isn't as stellar, but it doesn't matter because when he fights certain fighters, no matter what level it is, you can see steady improvement and you can see that this dude's fighting at a certain level. It's the same thing with Ryan. We're not the same thing with Ryan because he's not at the same level as Boots, but I just mean it's the same thing with Ryan in the sense that he's still progressing. Like I've been very critical of this dude, but I watched that performance and I was like, that's impressive because he's correcting things that I wanted to see him correct. And I have to give him credit for that.
Yeah. Um. Hold on. X Crypto. He says 720p in 2022. Assuming I think I know what you're talking about. We're gonna be in we're gonna be in 6K in a little bit, if that's what you're referring to. But big shout out to you. Big shout out to YSL Sports Media. He said Ryan moving to 140 is a farce. All he's gonna do is bring up guys from 135 to fight him. He can't be effective against the top 10 of 140 because they are his size and he has numerous defensive flaws. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a natural 140. So I think he will be coming back down to 35. And
Um,
I, I can say that because of his weight fight night. Now, if he was
I'm not.
like what?
No, no, finish.
No, like if he would have so YSM, if he would have came into this fight at like maybe 155 to 160, I might subscribe to him fighting at 140 permanently. The fact that I know he came in at 148, that's more of a rehydration weight for a guy that fights at 135. So I'm assuming he's gonna probably get back down to 135. But yeah, it's like 140 is murderer's row at 140. Like it's murderer's row at 140. So I would suggest that he doesn't fight at 140 for
A
a
lot
lot
of
of
those
different
dudes
reasons.
share, yeah, a lot of those dudes share his dimension. So I understand what you mean by that. You know, you got
Yeah.
dudes who are similar height, similar reach. And
A
yes,
lot,
he does have defensive flaws. So I hear you.
yeah, a lot of those things that he gets away with, he wouldn't be able to get away with it at 140. It's kind of
But
similar
he's
to
correcting them though. He is correcting them.
he
Like and
you can see him trying to make the corrections.
and
So
at the end of the day, you can have defensive flaws. If you have the right game plan, you don't need necessarily to fix all your defensive flaws. For example, Fury has extreme defensive flaws, but he just knows that when you cross that line, I'm just gonna smother everything that comes at me. And if Ryan Garcia developed a good clinch game, a real good clinch game, and he developed real good foot placement, he don't really and keeping his chin down, all of the flaws that you guys see, no one will be able to exploit. Because whenever they get close enough to try and let their shots go, the clinch game's coming up, bro. And if he's got a good enough clinch game, dudes will be fighting on the outside the whole night and be fighting against a very quick jab, very fast hands. And if he had a good enough foot placement, he'll be able to walk dudes onto the right shots.
yeah, the thing about it is like everybody has flaws. But the thing is, can you mask your flaws with your attributes so guys can't take advantage of it? Everybody has flaws in this sport. You know what I'm saying? And the race is between can Ryan Garcia fix some of these defensive flaws before he faces an opponent that can exploit them? That's up to his team. That's up to his team. That's up to Goose and that's up to Ryan Garcia. You know what I'm saying? Matchmake. Why some you know this matchmaking is 90% of the game. It's
Facts,
90% of the game. So it's we all see the flaws in Ryan Garcia, but a lot of guys go with the same flaws so they whole career and don't correct it one time.
facts.
You know what I'm saying? So we just gonna sit back and we're gonna sit back and watch. But see, I can tell you flaws with Devin Haney. I can tell you flaws with
Tank.
Tank. I can tell you flaws with Shakur. There's a lot. Everybody has flaws, but their positives are so good you can't exploit it.
You
And
see
that's
just
actually
how
that's the marks
yeah.
of a great fighter, though. That's the
I was
marks of a
about to
great
say
fighter.
that. How good are you at masking?
Exactly.
Masking up those flaws.
Exactly.
And there's certain fighters that are great fighters, and there's fighters that fight great. And the
Yeah,
ones
that's a
that
fact.
fight great, they master those. Like Klitschko, he was a very, very good fighter at masking up a lot of the mistakes he made. And
Yeah,
sometimes Ryan Garcia could easily be a fighter like that.
could be. Could be. We're gonna find out. Um Leonard's big shout out. He said I would take Ryan Garcia in a fight. Guy is 5'2", 30 kilograms. I'm assuming, is he talking about Tank? I'm not sure if
I
he's talking
don't
about
know.
Tank or not, but yeah, I'm not sure. Come back and clarify that. Michael said, "Ain't just the chin. You can throw punches flat footed, but what happens when your opponent don't stay still and time you levels?"
You got a good
Again,
foot placement for that.
yeah, there's certain things that there's certain things that the opponent has to do as well. I so Michael, I'll say this to you, bro. It's gonna take a legit top 10 dude with similar physical attributes to exploit Ryan Garcia. I'll say that.
If he
I'll
if
say
he
that.
continues at the level of improvement, I agree.
Exactly. If he continues with the improvement, it's going to take a person in the top 10 with similar physical attributes. Now, it could be somebody in the top 10 and they don't have those same physical attributes. They're going to have a very difficult time with Ryan Garcia.
Right.
They're going to have a difficult time with him. Now, I'm not the biggest Ryan Garcia fan. I just know improvements when I see him. I know improvements when I see him. YSM said, "Good drill, Shane." Yeah, that's an old school. That's an old school. That's an old school drill too. That's an old school
Yeah.
drill too. Uh, Michael said, that last fight didn't show me nothing that I didn't know already, and that's if you let Garcia do what he wants to want you going to sleep.
See,
See,
you're
I
looking.
don't. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. Go ahead.
See, you're looking at things on the surface, and I respect that, bro. But I don't look at surface jobs. So I get what you mean. I get what you mean. I'm not looking at the result. I'm looking at the performance. So if I was to just look at result, then if a fighter was 30-0 but never fought anyone good, I'm just gonna give them credit. At the end of the day, there's certain things that I'm looking at when I watch a fight. So the reason why I disagree with you is because when I go into a fight, I already know what I'm looking for. Does this fighter do this? Does this fighter do that? Does this fighter do this? Like I'm looking for certain things. And with Ryan Garcia, there's certain things I'm looking for. And I'm seeing corrections. You can't tell me that the dude who fought Luke Campbell is the dude that fought Fortuna. You said that it didn't show you anything. Well, that's a bit surprising. Because if you're watching that fight from a technical aspect, it should have shown you a lot. That this dude is consciously making an effort to improve on his hand skills defensively and his hand placement defensively. That's what you should have seen.
Yeah, I just
Whether he's perfected it or not, that's neither here nor there. He's making a conscious effort to improve on it.
yeah, so Michael, let me kind of follow up on that. So there was a couple things that Ryan Garcia did in that fight that I didn't know. Number one, he leaves out the back door with his hands down. I didn't see that much in this fight against Fortuna. Now, did Fortuna offer a lot offensively for him to, be worried about? No, he didn't. But with fundamentals, you still do them whether you got action coming at you or not. Fundamentals
Facts.
are fundamentals. So I didn't him keeping at least a hand up and being defensively minded while he's leaving out the back door. That's an improvement from the Luke Campbell fight. Second thing, he didn't smother his shots, and sometimes he smothers his shots. Third thing, he used to telegraph a lot of his counters. He didn't do that a lot in the Javier Fortuna fight. So there's about 5 or 6 things from a technical standpoint that he showed me that Ryan Garcia wasn't consistently doing before. Like everything was just lightning speed. He was even throwing throwaway shot, like feints and throwaway shots. And I'm a big fan of feints and throwaway shots. And I sat and I like analyzed that like all within a 6-round fight. Like
Yeah,
actually sit back and actually like watch it from that technical aspect. It's a lot of things that he was doing in that fight that he wasn't doing 2-3 fights ago.
and that's a fact because I know a lot of people watching this is probably Tank fans, and Tank doesn't do that. Tank doesn't throw punches. Like Ryan Garcia never used to throw punches where I'm just throwing this punch to position you somewhere. I just want you to be in this position so I can throw something else. Everything Ryan threw was thrown to knock you out. Everything. Everything he used to throw was thrown to knock you out. Whereas now he's throwing punches where I'm just going to throw this so you can reposition or relocate yourself into walking into a punch. And that's something that I give credit for. Again, that's an improvement.
And it was about maybe about a good 5, 6 different times, Michael. He threw that slapping right hand. I'm like, here come the straight. I said, here come the straight right hand right down the pipe. That slapping left hand. And he wasn't doing it immediate neither. He would throw that slapping right hand. Javier Fortuna would have to reset. As soon as he planted his feet to try to reset, here come the straight right hand. Here come the Mayweather right hand right down the pipe. So I could see him thinking his way through the fight, but so it depends on how much you've watched Ryan Garcia before. Like I've watched Ryan Garcia quite a bit. So I know his flaws and everything else in my personal opinion. So when I looked at this fight, I'm like, yo, that's completely different than what he was 3, 4 fights ago. You know what I mean? So, but if you haven't watched Ryan Garcia in the past with your boxing glasses on, then I can understand it. You understand what I'm saying? But I watched quite a bit.
It's like one of the things is if you listen to videos that I've done in the past, I've been very critical of Ryan Garcia, and I was sitting in the same boat that you were sitting in. But it's like, let's say your wife can't cook, but you can clearly see that she's making an effort every time to cook a better meal every time she's doing it. It still may not be that nice, but you can taste the improvements, and that's what I'm saying. I can see the improvements. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Foreseeable said, "What's going on?" Say, what do you think of Armenian genocide film? I don't have an opinion on it. I know that's an old school film, though. I know that film came out maybe 15 years ago. That's an old film. But I really don't have an opinion on it at the moment. Boxing Learner, big shout out to Boxing Learner. Said agree, perfect matchmaking, but he's still improving. Making small adjustments, improvements can lead to great results. Yeah, exactly. And another thing, Michael, let me throw this in too. You got to remember, he just got with Goosen not that long ago. So it takes 2 to 3 camps before you see a fighter really change under a new trainer or a trainer to really implement their game plan and their style within a fighter. So you got to keep that in mind as well.
And what's lovely is he's still got the raw skill that he had with Reynoso. I see a lot of times when coaches take up somebody else and they try to remodel them, they throw the baby out with the bathwater, which ends up happening is all the pros that they had before, they end up losing in the process of trying to remodel themselves. So I'm not seeing that with Ryan Garcia neither.
Take Liam Williams, for example, when he fought Eubank Jr., that was a complete 180, and he didn't need it. Michael said, what's that film? He said, Uncultured to Not Know. Lenards, he said, I wish the guy on the right a good night's sleep.
Yeah, bro.
Hey man, he in the UK, man. So it's like late over there, man. But we appreciate him every time he step on because be late over there. Chris G, my boxing son in the building. Big shout out to you, bro. He said Granados versus Fortuna was a fight at 140, so Fortuna has been in a fight at 140. Was that fight at 140? I'm gonna take your word for it.
I would have thought so.
Yeah,
I don't remember Granados fighting at 135 anytime recently.
Yeah, the only time last time I think he fought at 35 was when he fought Robert Easter.
I think
That
even
might
that was that not at 140 as well?
I think
Maybe it
that
was
was a
one.
35. I think it's 35. Michael Jackson. I'm not being critical. I want him to show me I can do a breakdown, but that breakdown would just correlate to the win and how he won. But what did his opponent do? Nothing. One punch. That's it. No, I so let me get at that real quick. So Javier Fortuna did not throw many shots. Agreed, 100%. Offensively, he looked a lot like Tagu. I'm just gonna keep it real. The only thing he could offer is a single shot or a single shot and leading to a leaping left hook. That's I mean leading leaping right hook. That's all he was giving you. I'm sorry, left hook. Um, that's all he was giving you. But the thing is, I will say this: Ryan Garcia gave him so much punch variety that he spent a lot of time. So imagine you having to deal with punch variety and elite hand speed. He still got that raw hand speed. So it takes you rounds to get used to that. It takes you rounds to get used to that. So yes, he kept his hands in his pocket, but part of that was him, and part of that was Ryan Garcia as well. But we're gonna see Ryan Garcia hopefully against opposition that's gonna give him more, more pushback, and that's something that we all want. X Cryptor, you are losing me, bro. I don't know what you talking about. For Sandoval, what do you think of Michael Jordan's chances in 2022 racial draft? I don't know, bro. I don't know, man. YSM Ryan said he's not going back down to 135. I mean, well, if he's not going back down to 135, I'll ask y'all this question: who wins this fight right now, Ryan Garcia or Sandor Martin? Right now, 140.
I mean, I personally would pick Ryan,
Yeah,
but there is a few dudes at 130. If he's gonna do 140, he has to be real careful in who he fights.
yeah. His
There's a
matchmaking
few
got to be impeccable.
impeccable because there's probably about 6 or 7 dudes who I'll just avoid.
Period. Yeah, period. I would
I
just
mean,
flat out.
one person who I would avoid off the rip, like stylistically, would be terrible for Ryan Garcia is Regis Prograis. He's
Yeah,
one person who can exploit all of those holds that Ryan
yeah,
Garcia has.
yeah. Yeah, Prograde is somebody that
He's
he
just too
he's
coordinated. Like
yeah,
anyone who can catch and counter that good in the pocket, he's gonna cause you so much problems.
yeah. Subrio Matisse is another guy he should just flat out avoid because he's gonna walk through a lot of those shots
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
get his own off. So he
Even
got he got to move real careful.
real careful. I mean, there's even a few dudes there. I mean, I'm not trying to talk about the top dudes like the Josh Taylor. That's obvious.
Montana gives him trouble.
Um,
Um,
what do you think of Brandon Lee?
Brandon Lee would give him trouble. Now Brandon Lee's very flat footed.
Zapata.
Zepeda would give him trouble.
I mean, the great fight
That's a
for
winnable fight. That's a winnable fight for him though, because
a
Zepeda's not
great fight
skilled.
for
So
Mexicans though would be him versus Jose Ramirez.
that'd be a good fight. But I think Jose Ramirez, he got a lot of attributes that would give Ryan Garcia trouble too. That's a fight I would avoid if I'm Ryan Garcia. That's not a good style matchup for him. His those so YSM those defensive problems that you was talking about earlier, and Michael as well, they got to be cleaned up before he goes up against a Ramirez. He they would have to be completely cleaned up because his at the very least his clinch game got to be on point.
Yeah, at
Because
the very least.
Jose Ramirez is going to be right in his kitchen. Going to be right in his kitchen for sure.
You know a
But
fight which he should be looking for, which I know he probably ain't gonna get, but someone like a Jack Catterall, that would be a nice fight for him to see.
where he
If
at?
he's supposed to be fighting Josh Taylor rematch,
So why he ain't just keep the belt then? If he
bro.
was
I
going to
don't
rematch,
understand. I
am I the only one
don't
that's
make
thinking that?
sense.
Because he dropped it as if he had another mandatory or another
Opportunity
fight.
on the line. Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't understand that. But Boxing Learner said it's crazy that some think the top 10 140 pounders can't beat Ryan. Well, I don't know who's saying that, but yeah, the majority of the 140 will probably beat Ryan.
I mean,
Um, Ryan's
Barbosa
not ready
gives
yet.
Ryan a problem as well. Lot of dudes, bro.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
problem.
a lot of 140 may be in terms of just raw, just how deep the division is. It's probably a top 5 division in the sport for
Fact.
sure. Just in terms of just it being deep. Um, why Fury defensive flaws are masked by his size. He is significantly bigger than every fighter he's faced. That's a
Exactly.
fact. That's a
And
fact.
at
Perfect example.
135, Ryan has the advantage as well. At
Exactly.
135.
So he's kind of like, hey, when he fight at 135, he like Tyson Fury. It's very few cards, and that's including Tank too.
The
I
dude is
love Tank.
massive, bro. He's
Tank
real tall. Like he's a tall 135 pounder.
Tank is 5'4", and the one thing they teach you not to do in boxing is leave your feet. Tank had to leave his feet to get the Ryan Garcia chin, unless he's
Literally.
really in the pocket with him. Yeah, if he's anywhere mid range or
And
outside, he
He
really
got
got to.
some he got some real T-Rex arms as well, bro.
Yeah. Ex Crypty said Ryan Garcia worse than Ronaldo. Damn. Damn.
I mean, I'm
uh,
wondering in what sense you mean, but fair enough.
he said, I think Joe Biden can knock out Garcia in 2 rounds. He was funny, bro.
Wow.
Bruce Gas, what's going on, bro? He said, salute, brothers. Big shout out to you, bro. Devin, what's going on, bro? He said, salute, fam. Sorry I haven't been here in a while. My schedule changed. Bro, we ain't been here in a while neither. Our schedule been crazy too, bro. I'm keeping it a bean with you. I'm glad you're here, though. Michael Johnson, nah, not surface. You can't say what I'm saying is surface when what me and you are saying is an opinion, but yours is a lot more educated,
No,
but it's an opinion. Nah, he ain't
no.
mean it like that. But go ahead, Shane.
I
Go
did.
ahead. Go ahead.
I didn't mean it in that sense. When I meant on the surface, I meant that you're looking at the result. That's all I meant. Like you were expecting something. You were expecting to be impressed, and I just felt like you could just be looking at it from a little bit more basic in a sense. Is he improving? I felt like you expected to be impressed, and sometimes you got to remove your preconceptions of what a fighter is supposed to do and just look at the individual themselves and isolate this fighter from every other fighter or what you believe is correct and just look at him and go, is he better than what he was in his last fight? That's what I mean.
So you know what, Michael? Maybe this is because a lot of times sometimes to get to the bottom of something, and sometimes it's good to kind of bounce questions back and forth. When before the fight, like what were your expectations of Ryan Garcia? Like, what if you had certain boxes you wanted checked off for Ryan Garcia? Like, what's your top 3, 4 boxes you wanted for Ryan Garcia to check off in that fight? Because when I look at it, I'm like, he got, like I said, nobody's gotten off on Javier Fortuna like that. Matchmaking, yes. Timing, yes. I'm
I
gonna be
think one of
honest.
them is definitely flat-footed. I think one of them is the fact that he's definitely flat-footed. Because
Right,
I've
but
tried
that's but
Michael
see,
Johnson reference that quite a few times. So
yeah. Well, the thing is, that's not gonna change.
nope.
There's some guys that's just flat-footed. Like Adrian Broner's flat-footed. He will never be not flat-footed because he likes to get maximum leverage on his shots. Errol Spence is flat-footed because he likes to get maximum leverage on his shots. But I'm looking at is what are they doing to kind of take away the opportunities a person should have with a person that's flat-footed.
Facts. And
And,
I'll give you
and
an
so
example.
and then I'll follow up with one. Go ahead.
Like someone like AJ, for example, before the Ruiz fight, in fact, even before that, he was a very flat-footed, come forward, aggressive fighter. You could see natural aggression. And
Mm-hmm.
then you saw him in the Ruiz rematch where he was fleet of foot, bouncing on his toes, and he was boxing. And you could see that he had lost that cutting edge, that viciousness that he needed to fight Usyk. He was still on his toes. He was still bouncing instead of having that come forward aggression. So sometimes a dude can change up their style and lose what made them champion in the first place, or what made them great in the first place.
Mm-hmm. So I'll follow that up with another example. Take Errol Spence, for example. There's nobody on God's green earth is going to tell me that Errol Spence is not a flat-footed fighter. He's a very flat-footed fighter. He's probably one of the more flat-footed fighters you're going to find in the sport. But there's two things about him where two of his biggest strengths take away all of the advantages that an opponent can have with somebody with flat feet. Number one, battle of the footwork. He's winning 95% of the time. He's winning
Facts.
95% of the time, and he's top 5 in the sport in terms of judging distance. So you almost never
Maybe
catch him
top
out of
3.
position.
Maybe
Maybe
top
top
3.
3. So that's a prime example of somebody that is flat-footed, but he is so good in other areas it don't even matter. That's where Ryan Garcia is trying to get to. That's where he needs to get to. But he's a different dynamic in terms of physicality. So with Spence, his game is not speed. So he has to go with foot placement, judging the distance, things like that. So Ryan Garcia's situation may be a little different in terms of how he masked that. Go ahead.
One of the things that he needs to almost what he needs to almost do, and this will make him a much better fighter, because I realize Mexicans, they spar in smaller rings. What he needs to do is he needs to appreciate space. You see certain people that grew up in rings what are bigger, you see them move a lot more than they're supposed to. Like a Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, you can see that they do a lot of moving. They do a lot of moving, and they probably sparred in rings which were a certain size. Someone like Ryan Garcia doesn't look like they appreciate space that much. So the little space that they have, they accept it. You got a big ring, use it. So your foot placement and where you place your feet is so important. So if you could get him in a ring and start getting him sparring in bigger rings, and where you're just doing things like, instead of having a set Padman who's on the pads, and Padman does this with Devin Haney, and Padman's in the comments. He'd be the best person to speak about this. If there's a clip on YouTube of Padman and Devin Haney doing pads work. If you look at the entire 3 minutes, 5 minutes, Padman is never still. He's always moving around the ring. You see a lot of people, as Abel Sanchez does this a lot, where he's standing still and he makes people do pads from his fixed position. That never teaches you how to place your feet. Whereas when Padman done pad work with Devin Haney in that clip, Devin Haney has to constantly keep moving. So where he's placing his feet is so important. He doesn't have to have fast feet, even though Devin Haney does have fast feet. He doesn't have to have it, because where he's putting his foot is so important, because it's setting you up and just building up biomechanics for your foot placement when you throw shots. You will start seeing the improvements in the fight.
Michael, I'll say this, man. If Ryan Garcia fixed some of those mistakes, bro, he is going to be a problem.
Right.
He is going to be a problem, and that's what we waiting to see. Is he going to correct?
The dude's got out and out power, and he's got speed. And the biggest problem that he's going to be able to exploit is the fact that he's got Goosen in his corner, which is a thinking coach. This is a coach who will tell you what you're doing wrong, and that's the advantage that he has over certain fighters.
It could. I would say for the competition, people better hope he doesn't improve like 25% or 30% for the rest of the division. But there's still a if. Bruce, Michael, X said Batman got a better hook. Okay. For Sandoval said, do you think they will make a game from the Queen's Gambit?
Yeah, this guy's just talking madness.
Your line of questioning is not lined up with our topic. Michael Johnson, I didn't see nothing. Like I said the same thing about Wilder and Court Hill. Now it depends on what Wilder fight you're talking about. Are you talking about Wilder?
Fury.
Which Wilder fight are you talking about? Are you talking about Wilder Fury 1 two, three, like which one? Like it's just, I guess for me, like when I watch a fight, and Shane and I watch a fight really the same way. Like Michael, this is probably the best question is to see if we're watching things the same way, because not everybody watch a fight the same way. So um take Wilder and Luis Ortiz for example. That fight, I felt like Wilder showed a certain amount of boxing craft that got him the knockout. And what Shane and I tell people all the time is that Wilder doesn't get enough credit for some of the little small boxing things that he does. He is flawed in a lot of spots, but in that Luis Ortiz fight, he was conscious enough to throw that slapping left hook when Luis Ortiz was taking that hop step to get his right foot over Deontay Wilder's left foot, and he was actually getting off on Wilder. He started throwing that slapping left hook to center Luis Ortiz, and then he was able to get his straight right hand off. So that's a prime example of someone that may not get the credit that they supposed to get, but they're showing you something technically that's leading them to success later on in the fight. So let me know if you noticed that or not in that Luis Ortiz fight. I know that happened a while ago, but you pretty much a historian of the game. Um, he said, nah, Tagu at least knew how to stay away a bit. Like you said, punch variety, they knew with the L's he took and building Garcia's name off of Tank Davis, this fight was easy work for a possible buildup. Um, yeah, so I didn't listen. I like the fight for Ryan Garcia because Javier Fortuna was coming off a layoff, and he really wasn't active or anything like that. That was Ryan Garcia's second fight, and I think what 3 months, Shane? Three. I think that was like his
Yeah.
second fight in like 3 months. So it was a good time and matchup for Ryan Garcia for sure. But I could tell you this though. There's a couple of guys that fight at 140, and I wouldn't be confident to say that they would get Fortuna up out of there in 6 rounds. I would be very confident to say there's a couple guys at 140. I'll be like, I don't think they're getting them up out of there in six. If Devin Haney would have fought Fortuna, I don't think he would have got Fortuna up out of there in 6 rounds. That's at 35 or 40. So what he did was impressive. And think about it this way: if we're at a point where we're expecting Ryan Garcia to get a Javier Fortuna type guy up out of there in 6 rounds, we're actually giving him credit. Because I don't have that same expectations for other guys at 140. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if we love, so take a Regis Prograis. Like, we love Regis Prograis. You know what I'm saying? But he went, what was the fight he had on Triller?
Red Cash.
Yeah. He was basically like he was winning the fight against Red Cash, but Red Cash ended up getting disqualified in that fight. But you would think like Regis would have got him up out of there within a certain amount of rounds, but no, like you know what I'm saying. So we gotta take that into account too. Like in a fighter, your expectations of a fighter, even if you don't like the fighter, kind of it secretly tells how much respect you have for that fighter's talent. You know what I
See,
mean?
I'm
Mhm.
gonna slowly wind my way out of this live.
No, we getting ready. I'm getting ready to get off this drink because we almost at an hour, and I gotta
Yeah,
get
I'm
into some
so
other
spent
stuff.
right now. It's crazy.
Boxing learner Ryan would beat Sandor Martin.
Yeah, I
That's a
think
good
so.
fight, though. I think so too, but that's a good fight. Padman McGriff in the building. Big shout out to my OG
Yeah.
Padman. Padman, I gotta call you on the phone too. I gotta rap with you about something. But I'm gonna call you after this live. Michael, he said sometimes you will have to gamble with your fighter, but I think Garcia can bang with them all. But I think with a small few, he will get caught first often. I agree. I agree, especially at 140. Especially at 140. You talking facts on that. You definitely talking facts on that. He said now he said, no, you can't compare Fury with these smaller weights. Ain't that many fighters 8 foot tall, 260 pounds, let alone
No,
boxing
but
abilities. No,
no,
it's
no,
not
but what
that,
you got,
bro. Go ahead,
but
Shane. Go ahead.
what you got to understand is okay. We're talking about um uh proportion. So yes, there's not much people that's that tall, but look at the difference. So let's say Wilder and Fury. Wilder is 6'7", Fury 6'9". That's only 2 inches difference. Wilder
Mm-hmm.
had a an 85-inch reach. A Fury had an 89-inch reach. That's four inch difference.
Inches. Correct.
So if you were to take Ryan Garcia I think's got a 71-inch reach
Mm-hmm.
or 73-inch reach, and he's what, 5'8", 5'9", and he's fighting dudes who are 5'4", 5'5". So the dimensions is similar to Tyson Fury. He's still got that
Yeah.
same inch distance, and
It
2 inches to a heavyweight is nothing in comparison to 2 inches to a lightweight. If I'm
so
5'8" and you're 6 foot, or you're 5'8" and you're 5'10", that's so much smaller than being 5'10" and 7 foot. Because again, we're almost is the whilst the distance is different, ratio wise, it's not. The ratio isn't the same.
so basically, if a fighter, so Tyson Fury 6'9", he fights a guy that's 6'4", that's a 5-inch difference. If Ryan Garcia is 5'10" and he fights Isaac Cruz, he's 5'5", it's still a 5-inch difference. You feel what I'm saying? Like, so the dynamics, the 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 physical advantages are the same, in a
And
sense.
it's even better for Ryan because just like 7 pounds to a heavyweight is less important than 7 pounds to a welterweight, the same
Mm-hmm.
thing with height and reach. Three
Yeah,
inches for a lightweight is significant to 3 inches for a heavyweight.
yeah. You know what I'm saying? Michael Johnson, before the fight, I figured anyone they picked would be matchmaking based off of there is not a lot of fighters that can deal with his hand speed that Garcia possessed. Also, I looked at the investment part. So, yeah, so basically, Ryan Garcia is a fast starter, and you have to get adjusted to the speed. It doesn't matter how used you are to dealing with fast fighters. It's going to take you 2-3 rounds to get adjusted to the speed, which means he's probably going to be 2-3 rounds up after three. He said from Wilder's to Vern. Now, see, I thought now, bro, I'm with you. If you were saying that Wilder was showing some things, if you were saying that with the Stavern fight, so with the Stavern fight, a lot of people criticize Wilder for going 12. Like in the first fight, they criticized him. And I was just like, well, I was like, people was mad because he was knocking everybody out in the first round. You know what I'm saying? Um, so, you know, Shane is back. Um, said, gotta go, have to watch the game with teammates, man. We appreciate you. We gotta get up out of here too, bro. But we gonna hour 3 minutes strong. We gonna close it out with that. Um, First of all, big shout out to Boxing First Vlog, man. Like, he out here on his grind, man. I know people haven't seen him in a minute, man. You know, it's still the OG. You know what I'm saying? That's our brother. You know, for real, man.
Right.
Big shout out to him. You know, hope everything is going well with him and his family and all that, man. But Shane, give me social media so we can get up out of here, man. And this was a good one.
All right. Underscore, I'm Shane, the number one. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. And again, keep your eye out for this season's prediction league. Trust me. Like the
Shit
concepts
gonna
that
be
we're incorporating in this one is just so much better. You know.
shit gonna be lit. Shit gonna be lit, man. We all over the place, man. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, G5 Jeff TV, man. Website, G5JeffTV.com. Boxing Prediction Fantasy League will be starting August 6th. Promo videos and promotion for that will be coming probably starting next week. We're gonna be going
Mhm.
full speed ahead to August 6th, man. So we will be back tomorrow, man. We're trying to get back into a consistent flow. So on behalf of VP Shane, Boxing First Vlog, and your boy G5 Jeff TV, man, this was episode 108 of the Goodfellas podcast. We're gonna see y'all tomorrow. Peace.